Today I will be filling a plaster mold with terracotta to show you how to pour. These are beads. You see I have pre-filled a syringe with the terracotta. I'm now going to fill each cavity. You want to pour down the side quickly and evenly to fill the mold just over full so that you have a little bit of a rounded protrusion at the top. Now, to tell how thick it is, you want to keep track of these and keep them full as it absorbs. If you do that, you'll be able to see the clay build up around the edge of the mold. You can see this one is starting to come down a bit, so we'll put a few more drops in there just to keep it slightly rounded at the top. Depending upon the weather, the humidity, how dry your mold is, how thin your slip is, this will take a different amount of time, and how big the cavity of the mold is. The difference between the size of the spare, which is this pour hole, and the size of the cavity of the actual mold will depend on how fast it will suck down. So when you have a mold that has a larger cavity with a smaller pour hole, you will have to keep it filled more frequently. By keeping it filled, you accomplish a couple of things. You keep sufficient pressure on the interior cavity of the mold to keep it pressed well against the cavity. If you're trying to pour a solid object, this is extremely important, because if you do not keep it full, the object will collapse as the slip pulls away from the side of the mold as it absorbs. You can now see the edge right here and right here. You can see how it's not as shiny as the center part. This is the thickness that is being accumulated on the inside of the mold. This is how you can tell how thick your casting will be. Well, it's not an exact science, but it will give you a very good indication of how thick the casting will be. Of course, if you let the slip go too far down, it doesn't tell you much at all. So it's important to keep the mold full while it's absorbing. When it gets to the point that it is as thick as you want it, then you want to drain it. Now, for draining things with small holes like this, I use a aquarium pump with a thin glue tip on the end. This allows me to insert air into the mold, which will then get it to drain more quickly. Okay, I'm going to drain these now. We tip it up over the edge of the slip and insert the tip, and as you can see, just a little bit will come out. These are small beads that I'm pouring, so not very much will come out. I know that's kind of difficult to see, but hopefully you get the idea. Once it is drained, we want to tip it up and place it on something to finish draining. I use a refrigerator shelf and turn it upside down. As you can see, there are holes in the other side, which I will pour in a couple minutes once this is finished draining a little. Okay, here we are pouring the other side of the mold. One thing to note when you're using a syringe like this is to make sure that you don't have air trapped inside of it, because if you do, when you push a little bit to get a drop or two out, you'll get a stream, because as you push, before you create enough pressure to expel the slip from the syringe, you have compressed the air, and the slip will continue running for a few seconds after you release pressure. If you don't have air bubbles in the syringe, this doesn't happen. I'm shooting at a little bit different angle this time so that hopefully you'll be able to see it drain a little better. You may be able to see the slip going down in the mold a little better from this angle too, I'm not sure. Some considerations when pouring beads is the material that you're using and the strength it will have. I'm using terracotta, so I'm trying to pour these a little bit thicker than I normally would with porcelain. Porcelain is very strong, so it can be poured quite thin and still be sufficiently strong to be used as jewelry. Earthenware, which is the terracotta and various other types of ceramic, low-fired ceramics, are much less strong, and they need to be poured a bit thicker to be strong enough to really be used in jewelry. I'm trying to pour these thick enough, but yet still leave enough space that I will be able to adequately drain the mold. This makes it easier to drill the holes in the beads for stringing, and also makes the beads much lighter in weight. Okay, perhaps you can see now the lack of shininess around the edge. You can see how thick the slip is on the inside of the mold. Now these molds have about an 1/8" hole, maybe a little larger, so we don't want to go much thicker than this or we won't be able to drain them. Yeah, like I said, that first one doesn't want to drain. It may have a slightly smaller pore hole, or I'm not hitting the middle. You want to be careful with the air tube that you don't go into the edge of the spare, or it will plug the air tube and it won't blow any air. Sometimes you can get a little better angle like that. You can see it draining out now.